Hello, students. Good afternoon. How are you doing today? Okay, welcome to biology class. The last class we talked about living organisms. Okay, and I gave you the definition of living organisms, right? That living organisms are entities that have the characteristics of life, right? We talked about the characteristics of lives, all right? We talked about characteristics of living organisms, whereby with movement we have respiration, nutrition, irritability, growth, excretion, reproduction, adaptation, and death. Also, we talked about the plant cells and animal cell, that is the structure and function of plant and animal cell. Okay, so the last class we talked about plant cells and animal cell structure and functions of cells. We talked about the components of plant and animal cells. We checked the differences between plant cell and animal cell, the components of cells and the components of animal cells, right? So today we are moving on to the level of organization. Level of organization. That is today's topic, still under organisms. Level of organization. What do we mean by level of organization? What comes to your mind when you hear the word level of organization? Okay, so when we talk of level of organization, we talk about the hierarchical structure of life from okay, so that is what we mean by level of organization. That is the hierarchical structure of life. Taking for instance, there are some organisms you can't see with the aid of your eyes. There are some that you cannot see with your eyes. You can only see them using microscope. Okay, so which means that the organisms are so minute, they are so small that you cannot see them with the aid of your eyes unless you use microscope. Likewise, you cannot compare those kind of organisms to weevil. That's those small insects that you see inside your beans. You know how small they are, right? You can see them with the help of your eyes, though they are small, but you can see them. So you cannot still compare those kind of insects with housefly, right? Of course, housefly is bigger than the weevils. Okay, you cannot compare housefly with cockroach. Likewise, you cannot compare cockroach with rats, and you cannot compare rat with snake. You cannot compare snake to goats, and then you cannot compare goats with elephants. So that is how the hierarchical structure of life is. So it means that we have some organisms that are so small and simple, and we have some that are complex. So what is our definition of being simple? We talked about plant cells and animal cells in the class we had last, right? So we are going to be comparing those kind of organisms, that is the organisms that are so simple and small, to those ones that are complex. All right, so today we are moving to level of organization, which I just introduced. What do we mean by level of organization? The level of organization, like I explained earlier, refers to the hierarchical structure of life from the simplest to the complex. Okay, so this is the definition of the level of organisms. So it refers to the hierarchical structure of life from the simplest to the complex. Okay, so we are going to be looking at this component of the level of organization. And the first component is the cell. The first component is the cell. CELL. That is the first component of level of organization. When we talk of cell, what comes to your mind? What do we mean by cell? What is cell? Cell is the basic structure of life. It is the basic unit of life. Why do we say it is the basic unit of life? There is no organism that can exist without cell. So every organism, no matter how minute, no matter how small, they are they are composed of cells. It could be one cell, it could be more than one cell, but then every organisms, they are composed of cells. Okay, so the smallest unit of life is cell. The first component is cell, and there are some organisms that fall under this category, which means that they only have cell. They have only cell in their body, just one cell in their body. So they are referred to as unicellular organisms. They are referred to as unicellular organisms. I define cell as the basic unit of life. So we have different types of cells. We have the nerve, we have the muscle cell. Okay, so they are the basic unit of life. So an example of an organism that has only cell is euglena, or let me say the unicellular organisms. The unicellular organisms. Okay. What do we mean by uni? Uni means one. So anywhere you see uni, what comes to your mind is that they are referring to just one. Just like you are saying university, it means it's just one school, university. So when you hear the word uni, it means one. So there are some organisms that has only one cell in them, and they are the smallest and simplest organisms, which are the unicellular organisms. So an example of unicellular organisms are the euglena, we have the amoeba, we have the paramecium, etc. If you can hear me, please type I can hear you using the chat box. If you can hear me, please type I can hear you using the chat box. I want to know if you are with me or I'm talking to myself. So if you can hear me, please open the chat box and type I can hear you. If you are with me and you can hear me, thank you. Type I can hear you. Okay, so we have the euglena, we have the amoeba, we have paramecium, etc. Those organisms, they are unicellular organisms. Thank you very much. Thank you for your response. I can see some people typing, I can hear you. Thank you. Now we can continue because I am convinced that people can hear me. Okay, so we have the euglena, we have the amoeba, we have paramecium. All these organisms are unicellular organisms and they have just one cell. Like I explained earlier, they are called unicellular organisms because they have just one cell in them. Okay, so we move to the next hierarchy order. We move to the next level. The first level is the cell, the second level is the tissue. This is the second level. Please take note of everything we are doing in this class. Okay, we are going to be treating past questions after each topic. So after this topic, we'll treat past questions just like we did in the last class. Okay, so take note of everything we are doing in this class. Thank you. So we move to tissue. What is tissue? What do we mean by tissue? What are the organisms that have tissue? What are the organisms that belong to this category? Okay, so this category is a group of cells. All right, tissue is a group of similar cells that function or perform a specific function, performing a specific function. Okay, so this is a group of cell. This is a group of cells performing a similar function. Okay, so you can see that we say they are group of cells, which means that this category is complex than the first category. I hope you are getting it. Okay, that's why we call it hierarchical order, hierarchical structure of life from the simplest to the complex. So the simplest is the cell, followed by the tissue. So the tissue is a group of cells performing a similar function. Okay, and the organisms that belong to this category or to this level, number one is the bacteria. Okay, group of cells performing a similar function. Also, it's not compulsory, it is an organism, right? There are some like muscle. Your muscle is a tissue group of cells, right? You have the muscle, it's a tissue. Okay, so you also have the jellyfish, you have the seed, you have the hydra, they all belong to the group of tissue. Okay, you have the sea, or the jellyfish rather. Okay, so we have the jellyfish under the group of tissue. We have the jellyfish, we have the mussel, okay, etc. Also in plants, we have a plant tissue as well. There are some tissues in plants also, right? For instance, we have a plant tissue called xylem. Okay, so a plant tissue, that carries water, that carries water and mineral salts are called xylem. 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 This is very important. Please take note of that. Xylem. Anywhere you see xylem, it is a plant tissue. All right. So it carries water and mineral salt in the plant. That is the function of this tissue. Also, we have another tissue in plants called phloem. Also, we have phloem. Okay, so phloem carries food in plants. That is the function of this tissue, phloem, in plants. Okay, so this is to tell you that as we have tissues in animals, so we also have tissue in plants. So the plant tissue that carries water and mineral salt in the plant is xylem, and the plant tissue that carries food in plant is phloem. Please take note of that. Okay, we move to the next level called the organ. Look, if you take note of the way we arrange all these things, you see that tissue is a group of cells. So if tissue is a group of cells, then what would your organ be? Then organ will be a group of tissue. Okay, it's as simple as that. This is a group of tissue. Okay, don't forget we are arranging it in order of complexity from simple to complex. So this is a group of tissue, and we have different organs in our body. All right, we have different organs like your heart. Okay, so we have the heart, it's an organ. All right, so you have the kidney, you have the liver, all these, they are organs found in the body. And even in plants, you have the onion bulbs. All these, they are organs. So looking at all these organs, you see that they are made up of tissues. That is why we say organs are group of tissues. Okay, so like I gave example earlier, we have the heart, we have the liver, we have the kidney, etc. Okay, so we move to the next level, which is the system. If you can hear me, please thumbs up. If you can hear me and you are getting it, please thumbs up. If you have any question you want to ask, thank you, Faith. If you have any question you want to ask, please drop it using the chat box. Okay, so looking at the way we have been defining these levels, what would be the definition of system? If tissue is a group of cells, organ a group of tissue, then what would the system be? System means it is a group of organs. Okay, so it's as simple as that. This is a group of organ. Okay, so we have the body system. So we have a lot of organisms under this category. Also, we have a lot of systems under this category. All right. So like the reproductive system, the excretory system, the respiratory system, all these systems, they are group of organs that work together. For instance, the circulatory system, you have the heart and the blood vessels. All these are organs that work together in the circulatory system. Okay. So likewise, for the respiratory system, we have the lungs, we have the gills that work together as organs to form a system. So that is why we say they are group of organs. Okay, so the next level is the organism itself. Okay, I know I do not need to define this. Organisms are the normal organisms that you are familiar with. All right, so I know you can give me different examples of organisms. Okay, so under the organisms we have many organisms like the arachnids, the crustaceans, the snail, dogs, all these animals, they are under this category. Even human belong to this category of organisms. Okay, so we have five major levels of organization. The first one is the cell, the second one is the tissue, which is the group of cells. The third one is the organ, which is the group of tissue. The fourth one is system, which is a group of organ. And the fifth one is organism itself. Okay, I hope we understand this. Yeah, the organism is the complete living thing itself. So if organism is the complete living thing itself, then that means the organism consists of the cell, the tissue, the organ, and system. Okay, I want you to understand deeply this level of organization, which means that human, which belong to the level of organisms, we have the cell in us, we have the tissue, we have organ, we have systems. Okay, so we also have individual organisms that belong to this category. Like the cell, we have the euglena, the amoeba, the paramecium, the spirogyra. I didn't include spirogyra here, but it's parts. Okay, we have the spirogyra. All these, they are cells. They have just one cell in them. That's why we regard them as cell. Okay, they don't have tissue. And also, when we move to tissue, we have the hydra, we have jellyfish, we have muscle itself. All of these, they belong to tissue because they are a group of cells. Also, I mentioned two major tissues in plants. We still have a lot of tissue, but the major tissues in plants, we have the xylem, which carries water and mineral salts in plants. We have the phloem, which carries food in plants. These ones are tissue. Okay, then we move to organ, which is the group of tissue, e.g., the heart, the liver, the kidney, the onion bulb, the snails, the liver fluke, they belong to this category. They are organ, they have group of tissues in them. Okay, so we move to the system whereby I mentioned the reproductive system, circulatory system, digestive system, respiratory system. All of these, they are they have group of organs in them. Okay, so we also have example of organisms on that system, and all of these, they have annelates. We have the arthropods. This permits me to wipe off the board. I believe we have grasped what is therein. Okay, so we move to another subtopic. Which is the evolution among the living organisms. Okay, we have talked about their levels, their hierarchical structure. So we are going to the evolution evolution among the organisms. Evolution among the organisms. Okay, when we talk of evolution among the organisms, we are talking majorly about the wide category of organisms, which we refer to as the kingdom. I know this is not new to us as UTME students. So we talk about the kingdom. All right. So living organisms, like I explained earlier, from the simplest to the complex, we have the minute organisms, those that we cannot even see with the head of our eyes. Okay. So like the cells that I mentioned earlier, we even have the Escherichia coli, we have the streptococcus. All these you cannot see them with the head of your eyes. Okay, the streptococcus, the Escherichia coli, Escherichia coli. So all these they are bacteria, they are cells that you cannot see with the head of your eyes. Okay, so we move to the evolution among organisms. Okay, even from the simplest to the complex, how do we classify them? What is their major classification? What is their major classification? How do we group them? Okay, how do we group them? We all know that we have a lot of organisms in the world. We have a lot of animals, a lot of organisms, and then we need to group them for us to know their classes. Okay, so that is what we want to do now. We want to look at the categories of animals, the categories of organisms. So living organisms are classified under the broadest level known as kingdoms. Kingdoms. Okay, known as kingdom. So when we talk of kingdom, they are grouped based on their fundamental characteristics, how they evolve, how they behave, how their importance, their economic importance. Okay, where we can see them. All right, so that is what we mean by a kingdom. So it's a very broad level, it's a very broad category, it's a very broad classification of living organisms. And who brought about this kingdom? Who brought about this classification? The five kingdom classification was proposed by Robert Whitaker. Okay, so we have five major, please take note of this. We have five kingdom classification, which was proposed by Robert Whitaker. Okay, so when it comes to UTME, you need to take note of everything. You need to take note of everything. It is not O level that you can write and using your own understanding you can put down words, gather words together. No, UTME is not like that. So you have to be specific. You have to take note of everything. You have to take note of everything. Okay, so the five broad classification, the five kingdom classification was proposed by who? By Robert Whitaker in 1969. Okay, there are questions that also come this way, right? So please take note of it. Robert Whitaker in 1969. Okay, so what are these five kingdom classification? What are these major classification? So I am going to be classifying them to the simplest. I'm going to use the most simple way to classify them and break them down. So please pay attention. Give me your total attention. Okay. So this is to avoid too much notes and to break it down to the simplest. Okay, so under the kingdom, we have what we call Monera. We have kingdom Monera, all right? And this Monera is referred to as the prokaryotes. Prokaryotes. That's what we call them, prokaryotes. Okay, I'm very sure you are taking note of all this and you understand what I am trying to do here. Okay, so I'm just trying to make use of table to break them down. All right, so the first kingdom is the Monera. This Monera can also be called prokaryotes. Prokaryotes, which I wrote here. I want to manage my space. Okay, so I'm going to put it down. That's why it is called prokaryotes. So what do we mean by prokaryotes? Prokaryotes animals, they are this animal that even their cells, they don't have nucleus. All right. So I want you to link it to our last class where we talked about the plant cell, the animal cells, their components. We talked about the cytoplasm, nucleus, nucleolus, mitochondrial, Golgi body, endoplasmic reticulum, and all of the other components. Okay, so you see this particular Monera, this prokaryotes, they do not have nucleus and they don't have these membrane bodies. So their components, they are not that defined. You know, I said earlier that there are some organisms you cannot see with the aid of your eyes. You can only see them using microscope. So imagine as small as the organism is, imagine the kind of components is going to be composed of. Imagine the kind of thing that will be inside of it, something you cannot even see with your own eye. I believe you can relate with what I'm saying. Yes, I believe you can relate with what I'm saying. All right. So imagine an organism that you cannot see with your own eyes unless you use microscope. So tell me, what will this organism be composed of? What will be inside this organism? So this kind of organisms, they do not have nucleus. They do not have well-defined components. All right. So we call them prokaryotes. An example of prokaryotes, they are the bacteria. They are the bacteria. You see, you cannot see bacteria with your eyes. They are the bacteria. They are the blue-green algae. Blue-green algae. Okay, so I gave us an example of some examples under bacteria the other time, right? Where I talked about the Escherichia coli, I talked about the streptococcus, all right? So all these organisms, all these bacteria, some of them are even found in humans. Some of them, you can see them in your mouth. Some of them, you can see them in your throat. Like the streptococcus, it is found in your throat. All right. So there are some bacteria like that you can see them in humans. So even though you cannot see them with the aid of your eyes, but then you can see them using microscope. So all these, they are bacteria that does not have nucleus. They don't have well-defined um components. Okay, so I believe we all understand that. And the second kingdom, we move to kingdom Protista. Protista. That is the name of the second nucleus. Sorry, second kingdom. So we have Protista. So you see this Protista, they are mostly called eukaryotes. I believe we are taking note of all these things. The protistas are also called eukaryotes. Please take note of all these things. That is why I don't want to give us a note that you will see and you'll be scared to read. No, I do not want to do that. So I'm trying to simplify it as possible. Do you understand? So please take note of all these things. And then to add to it, when you are reading biology, for you to be able to assimilate on time, you can break it down, break it into tables, break it using, acronyms. Do you understand? So, and that is the same thing I am doing here now. So we have kingdom protista. They are also called the eukaryotes. Okay, and the examples under protista, they are, okay. Before I give you examples, you see these organisms, they have nucleus, unlike the prokaryotes. These ones, they have nucleus, they have well-defined components, unlike the prokaryotes. So examples of the protista, we can see all these unicellular organisms like the euglena. Okay, we have the euglena, we have the amoeba, we have the paramecium. Please just take note of everything I'm saying. The protistas, they are majorly the unicellular or multicellular organisms. Okay, so but these ones, they are only unicellular organisms, the monera. The protista, they can be unicellular or multicellular organisms. You can also see the paramecium under this paramecium. Okay, so we move to the next kingdom, which is kingdom fungi. Okay, we move to the kingdom fungi. You see, this kingdom fungi, they are the eukaryotic. They can be eukaryotic or heterotrophic organisms. Okay, these ones, they are eukaryotic or heterotrophic organisms. Now I'm going to break down heterotrophic organisms for you, and by the time I explain, you'll be able to give me examples of organisms under fungi. Okay, I already explained the eukaryotes, that they have nucleus, they have well-defined components. Okay, so I said fungi can either be eukaryotic or heterotrophic organisms. What do we mean by heterotrophic organisms? They are the organisms that cannot manufacture their food on their own. All right, so this is leading us to nutrition, but I'm not going to go deeply into nutrition. We have what we call autotrophic and we have heterotrophic. Okay, autotrophic, they are the ones that can manufacture their food by themselves, just like plants. They experience photosynthesis and they can manufacture their own food. But heterotrophic organisms, they are the animals that feed on things. They feed on what they see. They cannot manufacture their own food by themselves. So if they cannot manufacture their food by themselves, then that means they are more complex than the autotrophic organisms. Okay, so the fungi, they are the eukaryotic or heterotrophic organisms. And examples of fungi are the mushrooms. We have the mushroom that belongs to, we have the mushroom, we have the rhizopus. Okay, these ones, they are fungi. They are fungi. We also have some other examples, but because of our time, then we move to the next kingdom, which is kingdom plantae. Kingdom plantae, not plantain. Kingdom plantae. Okay, so you see the kingdom plantae, they are complex than kingdom fungi because you cannot see a unicellular under this. They are multicellular organisms. They can be multicellular, eukaryotic, autotrophic organisms. Just like I explained earlier about autotrophic and heterotrophic. Autotrophic, they can manufacture their own food by themselves, so they experience photosynthesis. All right, photosynthesis is a process whereby green plants synthesize or manufacture organic compound, primarily sugar, from carbon dioxide using sunlight as a source of energy and chlorophyll. So they can manufacture their own food by themselves. That is what we call autotrophic organisms. Okay, so the plantae, leading to if you look at this plantae very well, from the word plantain. You can say plantain is a plant, right? And plants can manufacture their food by themselves. So that should tell you that kingdom plantae also they belong to the category of plants. So they are autotrophic. They can manufacture their food by themselves. Also, we have multicellular organisms under it, and we have eukaryotic. Okay, we have the eukaryotic, we have multicellular organisms, and they are also autotrophic. Autotrophic. Okay, so I believe we got that. Then we move to the kingdom Animalia. But you see, before we move to Animalia, under kingdom Plantae, we have what we call Talophyta. All right, they are also grouped into classes. So under kingdom Plantain, we have what we call, hope you can understand. Okay, this is under Plantae. So we have the Talophyta. We have the Talophyta under kingdom Plantae. You have the Bryophyta. We have the Bryophyta under kingdom Plantae. Don't forget. Okay. We also have the Pteridophyta. We also have the Pteridophyta. Okay. And we have the Spermatophyta. We have the Spermatophyta. Anything phyta means plants. Okay. So all these four classes, they are under Plantae. All right. If you can hear me, please thumbs up. If you can hear me and you're enjoying the class, please thumbs up. Let me know that you are with me. If you can hear me and you are getting it, please thumbs up. Okay. All right. So we move to okay. So this is under Plantae. Now we also have the kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Animalia. Right? Don't forget we are talking about the kingdom. Okay, we have 5 major kingdom classification, which was proposed by Robert Whitaker in 1969. So we have the kingdom Monera, we have Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. And under kingdom Plantae, we have 4 major classes, which are the Talophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, and Spermatophyta. Thank you. Now, we also have some classes under Animalia. So I am going to draw the table under Animalia. It should be under this, but because of the space, so I'm going to draw it separately. Please pay attention. I'm going to wipe off the board now. I hope we have the graphs of what is there in. Thank you. All right. So we have the Animalia. Don't forget, that's the last group or last kingdom. Okay. So we have kingdom Animalia. Okay, so under this we have different classes too under kingdom Animalia, which is divided into the vertebrates. We have the invertebrates and we have the vertebrates. Those are the two major groups under kingdom Animalia. Those are the two major groups under kingdom Animalia, and we are going to also look into what they are composed of. So here we have the invertebrates and the vertebrate animals. All right, from the word Animalia, those are the animals. No, you cannot compare the word animal with organisms. So when we say animal, they are the strong organisms. All right. So the kingdom Animalia is now divided into two major groups, which is the invertebrates and the vertebrates. So what are the invertebrates? They are the animals without backbone. Animals without backbone. So we also have they are the animal without backbone, while the vertebrates, they are animals with backbone. Okay, animals with backbone. So under the invertebrates, we have the colentrates. We have the colentrates. We have the platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes. We also have the Annelida and the arthropod, and we have the mollusks. Okay, and we have the mollusks. This is an example. Example under this is the snail. Yes, is the snail. Example under this is your insects, which is the mosquito, your cockroach, okay, your housefly, insects is under arthropods, okay, and the annelids, they are the earthworm, they are the worms. The annelids are the worms, earthworms. Okay, I believe we are gaining something. And the platyhelminthes example is the tania, and also the colentrate is the hydra. Those are the examples of organisms under each of the classes. So under vertebrates, don't forget this is under invertebrates. And under the vertebrates, that comes here. Please pay total attention. I am doing this to avoid too much note, okay? So from the vertebrates now, we also have five classes. Don't forget, these are the five classes under the invertebrates, which is the CPAAM. All right, the colentrates, platyhelminthes, annelid, arthropod, and the mollusks. Those are under the invertebrates, animals without backbone. Okay, so we are moving to vertebrate, animals with backbone, which are the pisces. Those are fishes. Okay, so we have the amphibians. We have the amphibians. We have the reptiles. Okay, but they are classes. So let's say reptilia. This is amphibia. Okay, this is apes, and this is mammalia. Okay, so these are the major classes under vertebrate, right? So under the visit, like I said earlier, like bony fish, this is an example of species. Okay, so for the amphibian, e.g., we have the toad, we have the frog. Okay, and for the reptiles, we have the lizard, we have the snake. Okay, under apes, we have the birds. We have the birds, we have the gorilla, like that. Then the mammalian, sorry, under apes you have birds, and the mammalian you have the humans, we have the dog, goats, etc. Okay, so these are the major classes. These are the classes under vertebrate. You can see that they both have five different classes. For the invertebrate, you have five classes, which I call CPA square M. The C stands for colentrate, P for platyhelminthes, A, the first A for annelid, the second A for arthropod, and the M for mollusks. Those are the major 5 classes under invertebrates. And coming to the vertebrates, we have the pisces, amphibian, reptiles, we have the apes, and we have the mammalia. So these are the major classes under kingdom Animalia. So what we have done so far today, before we go to the questions under this topic. All right, so I want us to treat some questions under this topic so that you can know that there is no topic that should be rendered useless. You need to take note of every topic. You need to take note of everything, every word. Okay, so what we have done today, um, we started from the level of organization. All right, we started from the level of organization. I said level of organization refers to the hierarchical structure of life from the simplest to the most complex. Okay, so and I gave you different examples, different explanations. I gave you the 5 major level of organization, which is the cell, the basic unit of life, e.g. the euglena, the paramecium, the amoeba, the bacteria. Yes, bacteria are also unicellular organisms, like the Escherichia coli, the streptococcus. All these, they are unicellular organisms. They have just one cell. Okay, so we regard them, we classify them under the level of cell. And the second one is the tissue, which is the group of cells. Okay, I cited different examples. I gave you different organisms under the tissue. The third one is the organ, which is the group of tissues. I also cited different examples under that. And the next one is the system, all right, which is the group of organs. And the fourth one, and the fifth one is the system. Okay, the system is the fourth one, right? And the next one, which is the last, is the organism itself. That is the complete living thing. And I gave you example of organisms under each of the levels. Okay, so we moved to the kingdom, right? We move to the evolution of organisms, evolution among the organisms, whereby I told you that the broadest level of classification is called the kingdom. All right. And I mentioned the person that proposed this. Okay, it was proposed by someone which I called Robert Whitaker. This was done in 1969. Okay, so I gave you the kingdoms using table, which is the kingdom Munera, which are the prokaryotes, the kingdom Protista, which are the eukaryotes. They have definite body. I told you earlier that kingdom Munera, which are the prokaryotes, they do not have definite nucleus. They don't have nucleus and they do not have definite components because they are so minute. Okay, so we moved to kingdom Protista, which are the eukaryotes. We moved to the fungi, then after fungi, we talked about the plantae, all right, whereby I said from the word plantain, they are mostly plants, okay, and I gave you 4 classes under plantain, which we talked about the Talophyta, the Bryophyta, the Pteridophyta, and the Spermatophyta. Those are the major classes under kingdom plantain. Then we talked about the Animalia, whereby we have the major classes, which are the invertebrates and the vertebrates. Invertebrates are the animals without backbone, and the vertebrates are the animals with backbone. Then invertebrates, we have 5 classes under the invertebrates, which is still on the board here. And also we have 5 classes under vertebrates, which is also on the board here. Thank you so much for joining. And we are going to be treating some questions now. And if you also have questions to ask, you can send to the chat box so we can address it together in the class. All right, so we are going to treat some questions now. And I want to wipe off the board. I'm going to wipe off the board now. So I believe you have taken note of what is in there. Okay. So I'm going to send the question I'm going to send a question to the bird now. All right. Okay. So this is the first question. All right. This is the first question, 2017. The question says the level of organization of amoeba and euglena cell is called dash. The level of organization of amoeba and euglena cell is dash. If you know the answer, please can you use the chat box? Let me see what your answer will be. If you are with me, please look at the question on the board and attempt it. So according to what we have discussed today, the level of organization of amoeba and euglena cell is dash, according to what we have discussed today. Number A, organ. B, system. C, cell. D, tissue. What is the answer? Thank you. I can see a response. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm glad. Okay, so I can see response here. Yes, you are very, very correct. You are very correct. Thank you. So the answer is cell. All right, the answer is cell because I said these particular organisms, amoeba and euglena, they are unicellular organisms, which means they have just one cell and they belong to the category of cell. So the answer is C. Thank you very much for your attempt. So we move to another question. All right, we move to another question. It's also 2017, also from 2017. Okay, and it's a similar question to what we just did. It's a similar question. I'm going to wipe off this. Okay, so it's a similar question, and I would like us to also attempt it. So the level of organism in Spirogyra and Volvox is dash. The level of organism in Spirogyra and Volvox is dash. A, organ. B, system. C, cell. D, tissue. I told you that all these organisms, they are unicellular organisms. I mentioned the amoeba, the paramecium, the euglena, the Spirogyra, and also Volvox is a unicellular organism. So all these organisms, they belong to cell. All right. Although volvos can form a colony, all right, but we classify them under cell. They are not up to tissue, so we classify them under cell. So the answer is still cell. All right. So we move to the next question that I was able to gather, and which is this is from 2018. This is from 2018. Okay. So the question says, a plant tissue that carries water and mineral salt is dash. A plant tissue that carries water and mineral salt is dash. A, xylem. B, cortex. C, phloem. D, cambium. I made mention of this in class under tissue. I made mention of this under tissue. Please, I need an answer. If you are following me, please send the answer to the chat box. Send the answer to the chat box. A plant tissue that carries water and mineral salt is dash. A, xylem. B, cortex. C, phloem. D, cambium. I'm waiting for answer. I want us to attempt the question. Okay, so we have the okay, we have the answer as xylem. All right, like I mentioned earlier, a plant tissue that carries water and mineral salt is the xylem. I mentioned that the xylem carries water and mineral salts in plants, and phloem carries food in plants. So the answer is xylem. Thank you. And also, there is one more question I would like us to also attempt. The question is from 2020. 2020. That is where we have the question from. Okay. The question says, the question says, the prokaryotic cell, the prokaryotic cell, the prokaryotic cell type is characterized by dash. The prokaryotic cell type is characterized by dash. A. Complex cytoplasm in which different regions are poorly defined. B. Localization of different regions of the cell into tissue. Collection of organelles and micromolecular complexes. And D. Simple cytoplasm with well-defined regions. I told you about prokaryotic cell that they do not have a particular nucleus, they do not have a well-defined component. So looking at the explanation and the options that we have here, then your answer is what? Is A. That is complex cytoplasm in which different regions are poorly defined. They do not have a well-defined component. So thank you very much for joining today's class, and I hope you have learned something. You have learned a lot of things today, and I would like you to, you can visit our A1 Tutor Hub, check through the topics to read more and get more past questions, so you can solve some questions under the topics that we have treated. Thank you for joining today's class. See you in the next class. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful night rest. Bye.